Yes, sir. Continuing to discuss the transcendental name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nivrttatma, as given in Sri Vishnu Sahasranama. And particularly discussing this mysterious quality of renunciation in the Supreme Lord. For materialists, it's mysterious how anyone could be renounced. Why would you want to renounce? And for spiritualists, it's mysterious why the Supreme Lord would want to renounce. Why would he want to renounce? He doesn't have to do anything for spiritual advancement. In this regard, in this talk, I'm mostly going to be simply reading from quotes from Srila Prabhupada's books and from one of his talks and from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, I'll start with reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 11, Text 36, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Remember, the topic is the renunciation of the Supreme Lord. Udama bhava pishunama valguhasa vrivavalokanehato madanopi yasam samuhya chapam majahat pramadotamasta Yasindriyam vimatitum kuhakarna shekuhu. Although the queens, this refers to the queens of Dwaraka, although the queens' beautiful smiles and furtive glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord. Krishna does not have any material attraction. In this material world, there's trouble at every step. Padam padam yad vipadam nate sham. Okay. Master electrician came and moved one switch and solved the problem. All right, we're working on solving the problem of repeated birth and death by discussing the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, particularly focusing just now on the topic of renunciation. Reading from the 29th chapter of Srila Prabhupada's Krishna book, the Rasa Dance Introduction, and how Krishna was dancing with the gopis, who are the most beautiful, most talented and accomplished women, far above even Lakshmi in Vaikuntha. Srila Prabhupada writes, "The Supreme Personality of Godhead smiled, and, being very kind to the gopis, the Lord, although self-sufficient, began to embrace them and kiss them as they desired. When Krishna, smiling, looked at the faces of the gopis, the beauty of their faces became enhanced 100 times. When he was enjoying them in their midst, he appeared just like a full moon surrounded by millions of shining stars. Thus, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surrounded by hundreds of gopis and decorated with a flower garland of many colors, began to wander within the Vrindavan forest, sometimes singing to himself and sometimes singing with the gopis. In this way, the Lord and the gopis reached the cool, sandy bank of the Yamuna, where there were lilies and lotus flowers. In such a transcendental atmosphere, the gopis and Krishna began to enjoy one another while they were walking on the bank of the Yamuna. Krishna would sometimes put his arms around a gopi's head, breast or waist. Pinching one another and joking and looking at one another they enjoyed. When Krishna touched the bodies of the gopis, their lust to embrace him increased. They all enjoyed these pastimes. Thus the gopis were blessed with all mercy by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they enjoyed his company without a tinge of mundane sex life. So, very nice. Krishna's enjoying with the gopis in Vrindavan forest. Why would he want to renounce that? Does he want to renounce it? Read on. The gopis, however, soon began to feel very proud, thinking themselves to be the most fortunate women in the universe, due to being favored by the company of Krishna. Lord Krishna, who is known as Keshava, could immediately understand their pride caused by their great fortune of enjoying him personally, and in order to show them his causeless mercy and to curb their false pride, he immediately disappeared from the scene, exhibiting his opulence of renunciation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always full with 6 kinds of opulences, and this is an instance of the opulence of renunciation. This renunciation confirms Krishna's total non-attachment. He is always self-sufficient and is not dependent on anything. This is the platform on which his transcendental pastimes are enacted. So just see how important this name Nivrttatma is. Nivrttatma means that he's not attached to anything of this world. This is the platform on which his transcendental pastimes are enacted. This is very important to understand. That Krishna is in this world, he's not attracted to it. He doesn't come here to indulge his senses in a mundane way. He comes here to indulge his senses in a spiritual way. But even if there's an apparent tinge of pride, even in the gopis, Krishna is ready to leave them. Now, we shouldn't think that the gopis, they're proud just like some ordinary, mundane people, but Krishna's showing, well, there are different reasons. That's been discussed by the acharyas. Here, Srila Prabhupada, Acharya Prabhupada, is saying just to Krishna, he doesn't like to see pride in his devotees. So it's a lesson. It's this apparent pride arising in the gopis, just like the apparent illusion arising in Arjuna is not that the gopis are deficient or that Arjuna is deficient or they're mundanely influenced, but just to arrange for a lesson to be taught to all. And even in the midst of Krishna enjoying with the gopis, showing that his position, he's always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his position, although maybe seemingly mundane, but he's always in the transcendental. He's in the transcendental position, and he's always God. Even when he completely forgets he's God, apparently, in love with the gopis, but that he's always in a superior position. Now I'm going to read from Bhagavatam, from the 11th canto, chapter 5, text 34. Tyaktva sudusjaja surepsita rajra. I'll read that again. Tyaktva sudusjaja surepsita rajya lakshmim dharmishta aryavachasa yad agad aranyam mayamragam dayata yepsitam anvadhavad vande mahapurushate charanaravindam. O Mahapurusha, I worship your lotus feet. You gave up the association of the goddess of fortune and all her opulence, which is most difficult to renounce, and is hankered after even by the great demigods. Being the most faithful follower of the path of religion, you thus left for the forest in obedience to a Brahmana's curse. Out of sheer mercifulness, you chased after the fallen conditioned souls, who are always in pursuit of the false enjoyment of illusion, and at the same time engaged in searching out your desired object, Lord Shyamasundara. So actually this is the brilliance of Vyasadeva and the brilliance of the Vaishnava Acharyas in unpacking the purport of this verse, which can be understood to refer to Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, or Lord Ramachandra. So this translation has been given in relation to Lord Chaitanya. So, I'll read the purport. According to the Vaishnava Acharyas, this important verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam is understood to describe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, and also Sri Ramachandra. This verse appears within the discussion by the sage Karabhajana of the Yuga avatars, or the different incarnations of the personality of Godhead, who deliver the conditioned souls of each age. The prayers ending with the words Vande Mahaparusha Te Charanara are understood to glorify the incarnation of Lord Krishna in Kali Yuga, known as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived for 24 years in Navadvip as a householder and enjoyed immense popularity among both scholars and ordinary persons. His Sankirtan movement was completely supported by the local government, even though it was Muslim. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the pleasure of marrying the goddess of fortune. No ordinary woman of the material world, no matter how gorgeous she may be, can in any way compare with the beautiful goddess of fortune. Everyone in the universe, including Lord Brahma, is searching after the goddess of fortune. Therefore it is stated here, Surepsita, which means desired by the gods. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna appearing as a Brahmana, and therefore he is certainly Dharmishta, or the most religious. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always Dharmishta, whether he appears as a cowherd boy, a great king, or a Brahmana, because the Lord himself is the original source and personification of all religious principles. However, in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are very few political or economic activities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared as a great philosopher, Brahmana. And thus he is certainly Dharmishta. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the 17th chapter of the Adi Leela, it is described that a certain Brahmana, who is well known for being harsh and cursing others, could not enter the kirtan hall where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing kirtan because the door was locked. Being very agitated and breaking his Brahmana's thread, he cursed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu the next day on the bank of the Ganges, saying, "I shall now curse you, for your behavior has greatly aggrieved me. You shall be bereft of all material happiness." However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt great jubilation within himself, since his mission was Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, to give up the illusion of material sense gratification and staunchly engage 24 hours a day in the devotional service of the Lord. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took this curse as a blessing, and soon after, the Lord took sannyas. So, when we think of the renunciation of the Supreme Lord, we can think of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is referred to or alluded to later in Vishnu Sahasranama, Sannyasakrit, he who took sannyas. Now, I'm going to read from Srila Prabhupada's introduction to Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is adapted or based on a series of talks he gave in New York City. Srila Prabhupada is speaking about Lord Chaitanya's renunciation. Srila Prabhupada said, and it was later edited, "We are all actually Krishna's servants, but in conditioned life we are shackled by iron chains in the form of beautiful women. Thus every male is bound by sex, and therefore one who wishes to get liberation from the material clutches must first learn to control the sex urge. Unrestricted sex puts one fully in the clutches of Maya, illusion. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu officially renounced this Maya at the age of 24. Although his wife was 16 and his mother 17, and he was the only male in the family. Although he was a brahmana and was not rich, he took sannyas, the renounced order of life, and thus extricated himself from family entanglement, not caring for the maya of wife and mother." Of course, Lord Chaitanya's wife and mother are not maya, they're perfectly the topmost transcendental personalities. So Lord Chaitanya's family entanglement, it might appear from the mundane perspective to be mundane entanglement, but it's not at all. But to teach us that we need to get disentangled from all forms of Maya, of which, sorry to say this, but it's what Shastra says, and therefore it must be true, that family life, family entanglement is the most, it's the general matrix on which, or within which, entanglement in this material world is enacted. Pungsastriya mithuni bhavametam tayoraho hridaya granthi mahuhu ato griha kshetra sutapta vitare janasya moho yamaham mameti, is the verdict of the Shastra, that attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material life, and when a male and female unite, there becomes a strong bond on the heart, and then one becomes entangled in the illusion of thinking in terms of I, me, and mine, in terms of not only one's own body and wife, but also in terms of home, property, country, children, relatives, society, wealth, and so on. So Lord Chaitanya showed that one has to be renounced from attachment to everything material, and he took the drastic step of taking sannyas. And that was for preaching Krishna consciousness. Also, there are various reasons can be understood why he took sannyas. But Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing here on the point of renunciation, his renunciation in doing so, which is valid in the present discussion that we're having of Nivrttatma. Now, a reading from a transcript of Srila Prabhupada's talk on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 1, texts Canto 6, Chapter 1, texts 6 and 7, on June the 8th, 1975, in Honolulu. Srila Prabhupada, it's similar to what we just read. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born in a very highly respectable Brahmana family. He was personally very, very beautiful. His name is Gaura Sundara, which means golden and beautiful, and very learned scholar. At the age of 16 years, he defeated a very learned scholar from Kashmir. So he was very influential. When he was 20 years old, the Qazi broke the Mridanga in Sankirtan. Qazi means the Musalman magistrate. And he started the civil disobedience movement, And he called for 1 lakh of men, 100,000 men, to join the Sankirtan and go to the Qazi's house. Immediately it was done. Just see how much influential he was. He was only son of his mother. All brothers and sister died. And his wife was Lakshmi Priya. Lakshmi Priya died first, then he married second time Vishnu Priya. So very happy life, but he left. Tyaktva surepsita raja lakshmim. He was so happy in his family life that even the demigods cannot expect such happiness. Surepsita. Sura means demigods. They had not so much happiness. Tyaktva. But he gave it up. Maya mrigam. Why? Why did he give it up? Maya mrigam dayata yepsita manvadhavat. He took this mission just to show mercy to the fallen conditioned souls who are suffering in this material world. So Lord Chaitanya's renunciation is another manifestation of his mercy on the fallen conditioned souls, and therefore we bow down at the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the persons who have dedicated their lives as following the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Dante nidhaya churnakang padayo nipatya kritvacha kakushatameta daham bravimi. Hey sadhava sakala eva vihaya durat Gauranga Chandra Charane Kurutanuragaha Parivadatu Jano Yatha Tatava Nanu Mukharo Navayang Vicharayamaha Harirase Madira Madati Mata Bhuvi Vilutama Nartama Nirvishama. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.